Hey everybody, how you doing? A little late getting started. I asked my friend Vinny Laspinoso to join me. I'm just gonna really read this quasi statement regarding the WNBA, and I want to thank those viewers who have texted me about their thoughts regarding what's going on with the WNBA. And I want to emphasize that we are at a sort of a crossroads here with the whole program in a sense. And to address how I feel about where we're at, I prepared this many worded statement. And here we go. Okay. One thing to understand, and this reflects the title, WNBA Oakland expansion is achieved by aggression. AASEG must understand this is not a gentleman's game. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
One thing to understand about the business of sports, it's a game played by people who don't play for keeps at all. It's a game I know from working to form the bid to bring the Super Bowl to Oakland 1999 to 2000, and Oakland's only bid to host the Super Bowl in its history, and which would have been 2005 Super Bowl had we won it. Jacksonville did. And even though we lost November 3rd, 2000, I learned from then NFL Senior Vice President of Special Events, Jim Steeg. What I learned is that Jim told me that Jacksonville had no business even trying to host a Super Bowl, even thinking it'd host a Super Bowl. It didn't have enough hotels or convention space at all. But it was constantly aggressive. It would show up at owners' meetings with representatives and get on the owner's agenda, even though originally they weren't supposed to be on the agenda. And they did submit a bid prior to the one that they won, and they lost that bid. They lost one before that, too. They just kept trying. They just kept trying, okay? One thing it did have, Jacksonville, was a very popular owner in Wayne Weaver. And popular, what makes an NFL owner popular is very simply that, hey, that owner has an airplane that the other owner can borrow or that sort of thing. Yeah, it's rich person stuff, but hey, someone's got to play that game, right?
That's true.
There you go. And so it kept finding ways to make its desires known to the NFL owners, and eventually it won. Ask anyone involved in the business of sports, and they will tell you that at all levels, aggression wins. And when by aggression, I don't mean violence, because you look up aggression in business and all that, you see these violent references and all that because the science of search is still not quite right, particularly with respect to Google. But I digress. All right. But anyway, again, by aggression, I don't mean violence. I mean dealing with people you would normally not talk to, but you know you need their involvement, and so they're part of the strategy. If that sounds cold, then hey, you know what? Maybe you're not cut out for that business or this business. All right. I mean, understanding what people and organizations you're trying to woo want. All right. And in sports, it's always money. It always has to do with money. Money talks.
Definitely. It's a business after all. Sports business, show business. It's business. Business, right. Plain and simple.
That's right. And it's not politics, though that's important. And it's not celebrity that helps. It's money, as Vinny just said. Yeah. And it's initiative. It's the aggression of selling, calling, presenting, and meeting. It has to be the singular message delivered again and again and again, and then followed up with an offer with a price. That's the one thing the African American Sports Entertainment Group has not done, but it can do it. The AASEG needs money players behind it to make a bid as soon as possible. Black billionaires, white billionaires, Asian, Indian, male and female billionaires, all focused on the AASEG's mission. A WNBA team with a diverse ownership and in Oakland. So the saying I'm adopting is this: whine, then work, then win. Whine, work, and win. In other words, it's okay to complain, but cut it off, make your work product better, and go do everything you can. That's legal, of course, to win. All right, to win. Just Al Davis would say, just win, baby. All right, it's okay. And think of, I'm gonna come back to that in a second. Again, it's okay to complain, but let the anger fuel you and cause you to take action to win. That's the way you do it.
Wine, work,
Wine, work, and win. Yeah.
Wine, work, and win. Got it.
There's your T-shirt. Wine, work, and win.
I'm typing on my phone. That's
there
why.
You go. There you go. The AASEG can win, but it needs a diverse group of money players at this level and fast. Stay tuned. You would say, what names? Who? You know, there are a number of people they can go after. I don't know that they'll say yes, but I think of Lauren Powell Jobs, Steve Jobs, the late Steve Jobs' wife, who's an investor in sports initiatives and sports organizations.
Yeah.
I think of Oprah. All right. Oprah would be wonderful. And what if you had both of them? You know, think about that. Wouldn't that be cool, Vinny?
Whenever I think of female billionaires, I always think of Oprah Winfrey, especially how successful her show was for many years from the 80s to the 2000s. And of course, you know, Steve Jobs' widow. Like, if you want to grow the WNBA into more than just a spin-off of the NBA with its rules and everything, if you really want to do that, get some female ownership involved. Also, pay more for airfare that isn't just economy. I think a lot of players would greatly appreciate that. Not only that, like, the question I have too is, I thought and I could correct me on Rums, and I thought Joe Lacob already got the deal to be an owner for a team. Is that correct, or is that just?
You're right. What happened was in San Francisco, but see, here's the problem, Vinny. I'm glad you asked the question. I'm glad to have you here. They were sandbagged, they being the AASEG, because as they were spending their time doing, I think, frankly speaking, a bit too much community outreach, as opposed to outreach to getting the right team of people who have money. All right.
Yeah.
And putting something together that, and then growing the pot. The AASEG has spent too much time making it a kind of a tiny little club in Oakland rather than an all hands on deck initiative. All right. And they're not going to like to say that. But my point is, it's true.
Yeah. Right? If you want to get stuff, if you want to get stuff done, you can't just say that you're a tiny little club. You need to make yourself sometimes even bigger than you actually are in order to be a real threat. You need to have charisma. You need to have, you know, people in play that actually want to take part of it. Because if you just say you're a tiny little area in Oakland, no, you got to make it as national as you possibly can. Yeah. You need to show that there's a real interest here. When
I was trying to bring the Super Bowl to Oakland, I went after everybody. That's how we got Lee Steinberg involved. No person was too important to call. No person was somebody I regarded as not effective. And I remember Mike Savode's a great example. I didn't know who Mike Savode was. Mike Savode was a local, nationally noted at the time sports marketer who was also teaching at Golden Gate University, but he was upset about how we were doing certain things. When I heard that, I thought, oh, I got to bring him to the fold. So talked on the phone. In those days, there was no internet, like, you know, per se. There was, you know, AOL. But right. And we're talking about 1999, 1998. Went over to the Waterfront restaurant, had a great conversation with him, really hit it off. And he didn't want to become an official part of what we were doing, but he wanted to be an advisor, and that's precisely what he was, and a friend. And that's precisely what he was too. I haven't talked to him for a while. I need to, you know, reach out to him and see how he's doing. But my point is, when you're heading an effort like this, you got to make it a big tent. You can't make it a small tent. AASEG's tent is small, and you got people on the outside, some of them who are look like me and them, who are actively talking against them because of the way it was handled. And the city of Oakland has no award to get here because they pitted two black developers against each other for one half the Coliseum site, which really created this bad situation now. And there's been nothing done to rectify it. Okay. Mm-hmm. So while all this stern and drum has been happening, Joe Lacob has been across the bay, who also wanted a WNBA team in San Francisco, and he stated so as far back as 2014, the same year that Oakland at-large councilman Rebecca Kaplan did. Who came first? I don't know. But my whole point is Joe had the upper hand because, he owns Chase Center, owns the Warriors. You get the idea, right?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, right. And so at any rate, now the situation is Ray went to the WNBA and got a statement from them. But here's the catch. The WNBA did not issue a press release and still today has not issued an official press release saying that AASEG Oakland has the right to bring in or go after a WNBA expansion franchise for Oakland. And that's the problem. And as I've said to them, don't go out there and make your own press based on what they said to you in the background. Get them to say it for you. Otherwise, it's like I learned a long time ago when I was working for Elihu Harris, people want to hear the mayor say something. Or when I was running the Super Bowl, Jerry Brown was not making a statement at all in support of the Super Bowl. Neither was Willie Brown. I had to pull a lot of tricks, and Jerry was representing the city of Oakland. It was awful. So I moved, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but I did a lot of tricks to get what I needed. But eventually I got what I needed. And then, of course, the NFL giving us the advancement to be able to meet with a commissioner helped a great deal. And then people like Jim Irsay, who was one of our early advocates, that helped too. And Jim Irsay owns the Colts, right?
Yeah.
Well, but that's what you got to do. You can't think, oh, you can mention the diversity part, like Oakland is the most diverse city, shining city on the hill, the greatest example in America of diversity and advancement, right? Great. But you got to do the business at some point. Right. And that's where AASEG finds itself, even if it doesn't recognize it. So that's what I was going to say. There you go. Thanks. Any thoughts before I close on this one?
I think personally, between you and me, I think due to everything going on with the AASEG and everything else going with Oakland, in the same way that an expansion team could happen in Oakland for MLB, I honestly, tell the truth, I hate saying this, but truthfully, I think as of everything happened, that ship has sailed. And again, I feel for the city of Oakland. I feel for the city of Oakland. They lost the Warriors. They lost the Raiders. They're going to lose the A's. I know that there's somewhat of a push for the mayor to get an expansion team for the MLB, but it's not happening. No way is that going to happen. And
why do you say? I mean, finish the idea. Why do you think that's the case?
Because the MLB is not really interested in having an expansion team in Oakland, especially when they're more interested if they were to go west of the Mississippi, they'd be more interested in Portland, Oregon, or even Salt Lake City, Utah. And I have not really heard much from them wanting to do Oakland. I know that the city wants to try, but I think you're going to have a team in Nashville, and if not, and then for the other team, it'll be like Montreal, Raleigh, Charlotte, Salt Lake, or Portland. I can't see Oakland being one of those.
See, here's why I push back on that. The problem isn't location. Oakland is in the 5th or 6th, depending on how you measure it, media market, and that's still the case in traditional media terms, okay?
Yeah.
But that's still important, even though the internet has tended to skew some things. But Oakland's main problem is its government. Oakland's main problem is its decades-long thinking that it can't get anything done, to the point where people in Oakland actually work against each other to keep them from doing something.
Right. Like, that's not a shot against Oakland. Oakland's population is larger than Cincinnati or Pittsburgh. The Bay Area is larger.
What I'm saying, though, if I may, though, Vinny, people make this mistake all the time. Oakland is at the center of the Bay Area, which is now almost 9 billion. And become something, wouldn't it be a mean trick? 9 million people, right? 9 million people. 9 million people is a hard number to ignore. So when you're at the center of it, all the freeways, every freeway of major import in the Bay Area that has to go from going from west to east, you have to go over the Bay Bridge, or even if you don't do the Bay Bridge, you have to go, say, up north where you have the Richmond San Mateo Bridge, or down south where you've got the Dunbarton, they all eventually lead you to go to or go through at some point Oakland. And that's that. You can go through Castro Valley, even if you say I'll take 580, but even then you're touching Oakland. It's impossible to avoid Oakland. Oakland is at the center of the Bay Area. It is at the geographic center. And people like myself, the late Hills Newspaper Group owner, where I wrote my first column for the Montclarian for 3 years, Chip Brown, a loyal Golden Bear like myself, we all believe that Oakland should be number one and not San Francisco. A lot of us who believe that have died off and are dying off. All right. And what's left, I'm frankly speaking, are people who are passive aggressive. They don't understand how to do deals. They are about identity politics in an outsized way that actually stops them from getting things done and causes them to do ridiculous things like get on social media and make fun of people and hurl insults at them all the time.
Yeah, that's just all talk, no action. You just look like you look like a complete fool, and all you're doing is making your entire city look like a joke. If you're someone that's going to represent your city and outside of the city, people are going to look at this. I don't think the MLB wants to work with the government of Oakland in the first place. They've tried it for almost 20 years, and because of that reason, it's not so much that the city of Oakland in terms of an area is bad. It's just that I think the MLB wants to just be done with that and be someplace else.
Well, the commissioner of baseball right now is quite tired of the current mayor who seeks to use a kind of I'm going to be kind here.
Passive aggressiveness?
No, not at all. It is a kind of politics and a kind of approach that is more standard if you were in a nightclub and you ran into somebody that had a street beef with you and you didn't know how to deal with a street person, and yet the street person is the person who now is our mayor of Oakland. That's how that person approaches it. It's not the right way. It's not professional.
No.
And so we're not, the commissioner is happy to make a statement just, to keep up, basically make the mayor behave the way the mayor is behaving so that everybody can say, you actually want to deal with that person. And the mayor falls for it, hook, line, and sinker. All right. So all these folks are out there, they're being what they think is effective and political in the common standard system of landing an expansion franchise or a franchise. The political media part of it is actually working against them.
Right. Yeah, like I find that a lot of these people just see if they think they could raise their emotions the loudest, they think they're going to be heard.
Yeah.
But it's just not. More likely than not, it's what Mike McGlinchey Sr. once told me. The empty vessels make the most noise.
Yeah.
And you know what the Oakland government is being like right now?
Yeah, I know.
They are empty vessels.
But that's the thing about Vinny. We have enough money not to be. Oakland is not a poor city. Oakland has billions of dollars at its disposal and its access. It doesn't use the legislation to access it. But let's do this. We're running over our NFL time. We'll come back more about that, talk about that later. Folks, subscribe to Zenny62 on YouTube. Bookmark oaklandnewsnowblog.com, our new website, zenreport.com. And come on over with us to our NFL site. We start in just a minute or so. That ends this broadcast.